Good evening, and we begin at 5 with a developing story, a deadly stabbing in the middle of the day in Portland's Old Town, and a suspect who's now been detained. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko. Police responding to the scene near West Burnside and Northwest 3rd around 11:30 this morning. Alma McCarty joins us downtown from outside the Central Police Precinct. Alma.
David, officers say that it's noteworthy that this did happen, as you said, in the middle of the day around lunchtime when a lot of people were out and about in a place where there are already a lot of safety concerns like Old Town. When paramedics did get to the scene, they found the victim stabbed to death on the sidewalk. Now, officers then worked to find and detain the suspect, who was a couple of blocks north of the crime scene. PPB says they are not looking for any other suspects at this time. We do not have information about who the victim was nor the identity of the suspect, but the crime happened right near Union Gospel Mission.
The Portland Police Homicide Unit is here working on the case right now, and they're going to be investigating and determining if charges are appropriate in this case.
Now, police are asking anyone who may have seen something and then left the crime scene to get in touch with them about this case, and we will continue to give you updates as this story develops. For now, live in downtown Portland, Alma McCarty, KGW News.
And staying in Portland, police are also investigating a deadly hit and run. This was late last night in Northeast near 122nd and Sandy. That is not far from Park Rose High School. Police say they found a man dead in the road. The driver was gone. No word yet on a suspect or a vehicle description. Let's talk about Hurricane Ian's aftermath, which made another U.S. landfall today, this time hitting South Carolina after causing catastrophic damage in Florida. And while it hit the Palmetto State as a Category 1 compared to a Cat 4 along Florida's Gulf Coast, that storm quickly knocked out power to almost 200,000 people. As for the Sunshine State, the Associated Press reporting tonight, 17 people are confirmed dead so far. Officials expect that number to rise, and Ian could end up being the deadliest storm in the state's history. This is incredible video of the devastation in Fort Myers and surrounding areas that just goes on and on and on. Homes leveled, boats tossed like toys, and what's left of entire communities still flooded out. Some tourists, some residents just now being rescued 2 days after Ian's eye wall barreled on shore.
It's terrible. It's heartbreaking, and everybody, you sit there and talk to them, everybody's lost somebody, and some guy was sitting on top of his house with his kayak with his dog.
More than 1,000 rescuers are going up and down the coastline looking for signs of life. At least 2 million people in Florida are also still without power. And as the long road to rebuilding and recovery begins, it appears Portland has a major role to play. Mike Benner has details on Operation Blue Roof.
If the images coming out of Florida are any indication, the need for assistance in the wake of Hurricane Ian will be immense, and Portland is poised to answer the call.
It's extremely important, and it's such an honor to get to serve the American people in this way.
Colonel Mike Helton says the Portland branch of the U.S. Corps of Engineers, on behalf of FEMA, will be operating the call center for Operation Blue Roof.
And so Hurricane Ian that just came through, we're preparing for Operation Blue Roof to be able to get folks back into their homes and provide at least a temporary roof over their heads.
These employees with the U.S. Corps of Engineers are training right now, but in a matter of days they'll be taking calls from Floridians who have badly damaged roofs due to Hurricane Ian. These call takers from a high-rise in downtown Portland will then tap contractors in the southeast who will go out and install fiber-reinforced sheeting over hurricane-damaged roofs.
And being somebody from Florida, Florida is obviously very special to me, and so I want to help out my state as much as I can.
Jonathan Jenkins will be one of the volunteer call takers, just like he was in the days after Hurricane Ida hit Louisiana. The Operation Blue Roof Call Center, based in Jacksonville at the time, received a peak call volume of more than 16,000 calls for help per day. It resulted in contractors installing more than 33,000 temporary roofs.
When they get a hold of us on the phone and get to speak to an actual voice of somebody who cares and is there to help them, it's a really good experience for them, and it helps them feel better about it, and it makes us feel good too, being able to help them.
Operation Blue Roof was up and running for approximately 2 months following Hurricane Ida. The length of this new mission is really anybody's guess, but this much is clear.
We're in it for the long haul. We're going to be receiving calls, and once we get the go-ahead, we're going to be receiving calls until that final need is met.
In Portland, Mike Benner for KGW News.
And it looks like that need is so great that Operation Blue Roof call center will not start accepting calls until Florida's governor flags FEMA for assistance. That is expected sometime in the next 24 to 48 hours. Let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino now. Matt, Ian, now known as what is called a post-tropical cyclone, though that does not mean it's not done dumping massive amounts of rain.
All true, that's right. And that term post-tropical cyclone is something that we use to describe a storm that used to be tropical, either a hurricane or a tropical storm, but is no longer has the characteristics that would define it as a tropical system. It's also weakening as it moves inland too. You'll see that in a minute here, but the rain shield is just massive with this, and there will be flooding well inland. That's the thing about hurricanes. They're not just always coastal storms or storms that affect tropical areas like Florida. They move inland, they move north, and they spread a ton of rain with them. You can see the rain shield and still a circulation center with this. It's just not a tropical system any longer. Now, case in point, the winds sustained at about 60 miles an hour with this. So if it were still a tropical system, we would call this a tropical storm because that's how strong the winds are. But it's no longer tropical. It's semantics, really, but that's the deal. You can see the path takes it north into Virginia and even West Virginia, and the winds by late tonight will be down to about 40 miles an hour. So it'll weaken fairly rapidly, but the rain will continue falling. Even New York City is going to end up with 3+ inches of rain from this. And the mountainous region, the Appalachians from Pennsylvania down through West Virginia and Western Virginia and into northern North Carolina, they may get flooding and flash flooding there because of the heavy rain that is falling and will continue to fall across that region. So yes, they're still dealing with Ian, or the remains of it, on the East Coast. For us, it's the big dry. It's back. I'll let you know how warm it will be this weekend in a bit. David?
All right, thank you, Matt. And stay with us for continuing coverage of the hurricane on air and online. On KGW.com, you'll also find details on how to donate to the Red Cross and help with hurricane relief. NBC Nightly News will also have live coverage from Fort Myers, Florida. That's coming up at 5:30. Let's talk politics now. The race for Portland City Council is heating up, and today KGW hosted a debate in partnership with the Portland City Club between incumbent Commissioner Joanne Hardesty and her challenger, business lawyer Renee Gonzalez. We spent nearly 90 minutes talking about their visions for public safety, policing, homelessness, and addiction, just to name a few. Now you can watch the full debate right now at KGW.com or on our KGW YouTube channel, along with highlights tonight at 7 on a special edition of Straight Talk. But here is part of what the candidates had to say when I asked them, pandemic aside, how they would explain the challenges that the Rose City faces in 2022 and who is responsible.
I would say the failure of the state to provide adequate mental health care is the #1 issue. #2, we passed a ballot measure to decriminalize drugs, but what we didn't do was actually put the treatment components in place. And so what we're seeing is people really suffering on our streets with addiction and with other issues.
We cut police at the height of strife created during the pandemic. This was a historically bad decision. We created an environment that makes it so difficult to attract and retain high-quality public safety officers, partially from the rhetoric coming out of downtown City Hall, as well as a criminal justice system that centers every venerable goal except victims and except true justice.
And I will have much more from both candidates, including how they plan to vote on the city's charter reform proposal, how Hardesty describes her relationship with police, and what Gonzalez says about his pending $77,000 fine for violating the city says elections rules. That is coming up at 6 tonight on The Story.